I would like to call the Dearborn Public Schools August 25th, 2014 meeting to order, please. Roll call, please.
Pamela Adams.
Pamela won't be joining us tonight.
Joseph Guido. Here. Mary Lane.
Here.
Roxanne McDonald.
Roxanne McDonald also will not be joining us tonight.
Amy Scholas.
Same thing with Amy.
James Schoolmaster is here, and President Barry.
Here.
Thank you.
Next item.
Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. President Barry will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Where's my certificate? I don't get anything. What's going on?
Oh, no, it's a hearty handshake.
Oh, gee,
A
thanks.
hearty handshake.
Next item, please.
Superintendent's update, agenda items and non-agenda items.
2 retirements tonight. Jeff Bazzi, 23 years at McCullough Eunice as an engineer, and Jimmy Morga, just shy of 30 years custodial at Smith. So we offer congratulations to them and everybody else on our retirement list. On non-agenda items, you know that we're still working with the legislature, that they gave us a $50 increase with one hand and a $60-some increase in cost with the other. So we're still working with the legislature to try to get a supplemental so that all districts get at least $83 per pupil. So we're still working on that, and we'll keep you posted. Of course, I'm excited because next week is school. Next Tuesday, we start school with a half a day. It's exciting new year with a lot of new things coming with our STEM and ACE program and the continuing of great programs. And so we're very excited about the start of school next Tuesday, and we invite the board. I know most of you work, but if you're able to join us opening day, work with Dawn to schedule, and we'll have you visit some buildings because it's a great opportunity for the community and us to engage on opening day. So we're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item, please.
Citizen participation. Citizens wishing to address the board on agenda and non-agenda items for action were signed in by 7:10 by submitting a blue card to the secretary may speak at this time. The board may not be in a position to respond to non-agenda items. Therefore, speakers should not anticipate an immediate response to their comments or questions. For the benefit of all concerned, do not mention the names of students or school district employees. Please keep your comments as brief as possible. The president reserves the right to limit times. The first blue card that I have tonight is from Fatman Mahar, and she would like to speak about school of choice.
You can step up to the podium,
Yes.
please.
That way we'll all be able to hear you.
Yes, our TV audience will
and
be
the
able to
TV
hear you.
audience will also.
All right. So my name is Fatou Muhtar, and I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak tonight. We had a question regarding school of choice, and I know we sent out some emails, so we'll start off by saying thank you for the prompt responses to the emails regarding the issue. It was very simple. There was a student that applied for a school of choice position, and they were told several times that the program didn't exist. I understand that for high school, it was clarified to me that it does not exist anymore, but there's a very specific circumstance that was explained in depth in the email. And I was just hoping that we would get the chance to follow up on that issue and to discuss it further outside of this meeting.
I did see the email, and I did see the response, and it is at Student Services at this point, so that's where that gets handled. It does not, you know, the administration will follow up on that, so.
Okay, I appreciate it, and that was the majority of our concern.
No,
It's
thank
just
you
that
very
it's
much.
a very sensitive issue, and we appreciate your time.
Appreciate your time, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
The second blue card that I have is from Lou Kettrick, and he would like to indicate that my name is Lou Kettrick. I'm a student attending the new STEM school. I think that the school should have a better name. If the struggling kids get a cool name like ACE, why can't we? I propose that the school be named SMART, which is not only a cool name, but stands for Science, Math, Advanced Reasoning, and Technology. It reflects the kids and what we're learning. And here is a logo and symbol I created. Thank you for considering our idea. And I don't know if we can, David will put the logo up there, but gosh,
Luke, thank you very much. You put a lot of work into this, and you're going to put that on the camera, David? Very good job, and Mr. Superintendent Whiston will get back with you on this. Appreciate that.
And the final blue card that I
A
have is
moment,
from...
please. May I make a comment on the suggestion?
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
I hope that the principal or director of secondary or whomever will convene the student organization, and perhaps it would be appropriate for them to consider this as well.
Well noted, thank you.
Is from Mrs. Elder, and she'd like to speak on educational integrity.
Good evening,
Good evening.
board members, Mr. Whiston, and I'm here today to share with you some of my deepest concerns about the process of education we deliver to students and the collateral effects. I've been in the district as a teacher and counselor for 15 years, which has allowed me the insight to some issues negatively affecting the quality of education we should be providing to the community. I've had conversations, many conversations, with people, staff, community at large, in various forums. However, today, I'm here as a member whose primary concern is the integrity of the district and the community. With all due respect to all of you and the energies that the good intentioned people of this community put in this district, there's a pervasive abuse of power in this district, and it's time to highlight and stop this culture. Over the past few years, we've noticed there's been a pattern of questionable practices that appear to be in contradiction to sound best practices in educational leadership. This pattern has the appearance of personal discretion, which I strongly believe is not in line with justice. And I'm just going to kind of name some things. There's so many things, but I just kind of narrowed some things down.
Just, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yes.
You can name whatever you need to, but don't name any.
No.
Okay.
I won't.
All right.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Appreciate that.
Selectively posting some positions when qualified staff are available and waiting for job postings. Even when those postings, those jobs become available earlier in a matter of time that could cause the postings to appear earlier, if that makes any sense. Manipulating the period of time for job postings. Recruiting staff members to put in transfers for the purpose of creating a job pool. These practices exclude persons from the equal opportunity to apply for jobs, limits the experience and the quality of the applications or applicants. An example, an administrator contacts certain persons to apply for a position before the end of the school year. Then a job posting occurs during the summer while staff is off work. A qualified staff member is told by a central office administrator not to apply because this person would not be considered. Then there's an interview process, and the recruited person gets the job. In another example, a position becomes available before the end of the school year, but the job is not posted this time. Administrative discretion seeks to create a small pool of candidates from a transfer pool during the summer, which would limit the prospective candidates. These questionable practices appear to be unjust and appear to be manipulated by personal desires than following certain rules. Consequently, when practices like this continue, the quality of education pays the price. Another area, I'm going to be quick, please forgive me. The evaluation process was designed to support staff. It was a tool, but it has been selectively used as a threat. This culture of threat and intimidation against staff exists in order to achieve or fulfill personal ambitions wrongly and unjustly. And I'm not saying this happens all over, but it's happened and it happens. By examining this closer, it will reveal the evaluation process has been exploited through cases of fabrication and misrepresentation of some members' true performance. Educators have been subjected to this kind of behavior time and time again, directly and vicariously, through persons close to the direct threat, and in some cases has forced members to transfer out of buildings or leave the district. There's been a pattern of some persons doing the unjust work on behalf of others, and in the process, the collateral damage causes duress on innocent persons, including students and parents, and in some cases inhibiting staff members, for example, counselors, from performing some of their job duties, such as advocating for students. Liaison, for example. I'll say a liaison. I could say some, I'll say a liaison. Advocates for the school rather than the students and parents. And this came out of the mouth of parents. The liaison works for the school, not us. Sentiment by some parents. This has reached the point where some parents have withdrew from the school, both participation and literally withdrew for various reasons. One of them is reprisal, and one of them I almost am tempted to say is a family member of a student who's reached extremely high heights. Sadly, my experiences have shed light on the collateral effects of the abuse of power. I believe that some highly qualified, great invested persons who truly care about the mission of this district have been excluded from prospective positions because of personal objectives. The intimidation comes in the form of abuse and hurting students and parents who are at the mercy of the administration they feel are protecting their interests. Staff morale in some places is of concern. We look good on paper in some places. However, if you go directly to the backbone of this district, you will find there are some practices in place that are of concern and gross violations. You're an elected board who still has the confidence and trust of some of the community. You became the guardian angel, the guardian of education in this district. I'm confident you will look into these issues and deal with them in a way to preserve the integrity of education and educators.
Thank you.
And I have to, honestly, I really have to publicly apologize that I had to come here to say this, because the integrity of this district is very important to me.
Trustee Lane?
Yeah, I would just comment that I can see that this is an issue. I mean, it's an issue of great importance to all of us. The integrity of the system is bought at years and years of human progress and law and practice, so it's obvious that this is something that's weighed on your conscience. So I would thank you for coming. You outlined a problem. I would like to hear if you have suggestions for improvements. I mean, I always like to know that there is a problem, and I appreciate that. I'd like to have suggestions as well, and I'm sure that you've thought of some of those. You could email those to us as well. That way you can consider, how things work. So
Okay.
Even better, maybe you can sit down with the superintendent, Mr. Whiston. I mean, these are some strong allegations here. Thank you for bringing, your thoughts forward, and let's see what we can do, what's in the best interest of this district.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And our final blue card is from William Ollie, that he requests made to EFHS.
Good evening, everyone. I come here to talk about, just to follow up on a request I made to the Etzel Ford High School principal today. I don't know if you guys received that or not.
We did. We did,
Okay,
yes.
and I'm confident that we don't have to take any, I hope that we will get cooperation from the board and everything.
And I believe that there's already, it's already a motion, to be honest with you. If you didn't get the email tonight, you'll probably get it first thing in the morning.
Okay.
I do have information in front of me here.
Because I
that-
do plan on having hopefully a conference in October to discuss issues happening. As
Well,
much,
go ahead.
as much respect, just listening to this last speaker and all that, as much respect as I have for you all, that I've known you all for a long time, and I've supported you guys and all that, I can't follow what she said about confidence. I have no confidence in this board no more. I'm someone who has a kid now at Salina, at Etzel Ford, at Henry Ford, and at U of M Dearborn. I've been involved with Dearborn Public Schools, either working with it, part of task force and everything for 25 years. I'm born here. This city has been my life. I love this city. What I see happening with what was being talked about, the claim, you know, the neglect of power and authority of individuals in your district, it's absolute. And that's from an experience of being in there. I have a lot of stories to tell. When I was let go from Etzel Ford High School as a community liaison, I didn't want to make it about me. I let the process go. I kept going with it. I said, you know what? I don't want this to be about me or about anything. I want this to be about the kids and about making change. I see that trying to make change in a proper way, in the polite way, doesn't work in this district and all that. And like I said, I plan on moving forward with a lot of things, whether it's at every board meeting, whether we sit down and talk about it and confront it. There is that problem there. It will be addressed. And I say that as a parent that is not going to back down from this. I mean, this, honestly, I swear to God, it's shameful with the things going on. And years ago, when I addressed issues with all of you, and I sent emails, and decent about it and everything, as a community liaison and as someone in intervention who was seeing what was happening inside, I had no personal gains. I was brought into the job to help out. And what I seen and what I witnessed and everything, I brought it up to attention of some people, tossed aside. So what did I do? I took the next step and contacted you by email. Did not see nothing come from it. You know what I got from it? I got pulled into the office and told that I'm boarding insubordination. And that, you know, this is unacceptable because I want to try to make a change. No. And I made it clear. I didn't care. What's the worst thing you're going to do? Take my job? And then I confronted other issues. And like I said, I sat back for about 5 years now. I mean, it's out there. I've tried to work with everybody. I tried to do this the right way. But there is an issue in this district. And if it's something you guys can't handle or don't want to confront, then everyone needs to walk away, and we need to put people in your seats that will do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. Approval of minutes of the following Dearborn Board of Education meeting. Special meeting, which was open to close July 14th, 2014, and it's Board Report 1410. Next meeting, executive session, closed expulsion, July 14th, 2014, Board Report 1411. The third meeting was a special meeting, open to close, July 14th, 2014, Board Report 1412. The fourth meeting was an executive session, closed personnel, July 14th, 2014, Board Report 1413. And finally, the last meeting that we had was a regular P12 meeting, July 14th, 2014, which was Board Report 1414. Our recommended action as to these meetings is make any necessary corrections and move approval of these minutes. I so move.
Support.
That answers the questions if we get the summers off, I guess, huh?
Yes.
These meetings. So we have a motion and support. Are there any corrections, questions, comments? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item, please.
Recognition and acknowledgements. Commendations.
No commendations or other. We'll begin those next week meeting.
Thank you.
I have one accommodation, yes. We have one of our own, a 1999 graduate from Fortson High School, 33 years old, was just appointed the position of principal at Grosse Pointe South. He came from North Farmington Hills, where he served as AP for many, many years. So good luck to Mr. Musa Ham'a, a fine young man, also wrestled at Fortson, good wrestler.
Excellent.
Thank you, that's it.
It's good to hear about Dearborn people
Yes.
succeeding. Special reports. MDE, top to bottom rankings, which is Board Report 1415. Mr. Brian Whiston, Dr. Gail Shankman, and
I think we're going to have Dr. Kathleen McBroom come
Kathleen
forward
McBroom.
and give us a report.
She's our go-to lady as far as reports like this.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yes, indeed. I'm going to roll both reports into one, both the top to bottom list report and the follow-up, the fourth quarter priority and focus school report, if that's okay with you. And throughout the report, I'll be referring to this top to bottom list that was included in the board briefs that was sent to you, and that I think you have a copy of at your table, which is just a summary of the public information. And the information that I'm going to cover, this was released to the general public on August the 13th, and it's the summative data for the 2013-2014 school year. And just a quick review, the top to bottom list is an innovation from the Michigan Department of Education. It's part of the waiver that we have to No Child Left Behind legislation that mandates that 100% of the kids be 100% proficient in all subject areas. And when we went for the waiver, we had certain federal requirements we had to meet, which is that every year MDE has to rank every school in the state of Michigan. Those schools that fall into the top 10% will be designated as reward schools. Those schools that fall into the bottom 5% will be designated as priority schools. Those schools that have the 10% of the schools with the greatest achievement gaps between their top 30 and bottom 30 performing students will be identified as focus schools, and the rest of the schools in the state will not have any label placed on them. Again, a quick review. It considers student achievement in all 5 tested areas: reading, math, social studies, science, and writing. It looks at subgroup performance. Our subgroups in this district are students with disabilities, SWD, English learners, EL, economically disadvantaged, ED, and then, of course, the bottom 30, which is the arbitrary group that's been identified by the Michigan Department of Education. They look at general student achievement. They look at achievement over time, that is to see if the individual students are progressing throughout the ranks from not proficient to meeting the proficiency targets. And for the high schools, they also consider the graduation rates. Okay, we have some really excellent news to share, and the first is that Etzel Ford has moved from a rating of 0 to 29. Okay, this has taken them out of priority school status, and 29-point leap in 1 year is pretty considerable. Their MME across the board were very, very positive. They saw double-digit growth in both reading and writing. They went up in math. So they're no longer a low-performing school. They no longer fall within the 5%. They do retain the priority status label, and I'll talk more about that and what that means in just a little bit. More good news is that 3 of our focus schools from last year have become unfocused. That means they have significantly decrease the achievement gaps within their buildings. So Howe was a 1-year focus school. It was a reward school 2 years ago. It was focused last year. This year it's back and it's been designated a reward school again. Laurie Elementary, after 2 consecutive years as being a focus school, is now off the list. And Woodworth was just enjoyed that status for 1 year. And just so that you know, since focus schools were first brought to us 3 years ago, we have had 13 schools in the district identified at one time or another as focus schools. And now, of course, we're down to 6. Even more good news is that we have 7 reward schools, and there's actually 3 different ways a school can be named a reward school. One, as I previously mentioned, is for a high achieving school. 4 of these schools fall into the high achieving. Lindbergh, Howard, Howe, and Henry Ford Early College all fall into the top 10% of schools across the state. So congratulations to them. Becker is a beating the odds school. This means that they perform much better than other schools with similar demographics. And then our other 2 schools on the list, Maples and McCullough, they're called high progress schools. High progress means that they are showing marked achievement, much more so than their other cohort schools across the state. So congratulations. And you can see from the list there, a number of these schools have been reward schools for more than 1 consecutive years. They've been named year after year. So that's something to celebrate. If you look at the top to bottom list in general, here are some very general trends. 16 schools moved up, 15 schools moved down. Compared to last year, 15 schools moved up, 17 schools moved down. Okay? 2 schools stayed the same this year. Nowland stayed the same, and Henry Ford Early College, that again came in at the 99th percentile. So what are we going to do? 10 schools moved up or down less than 5 percentage points. That was the same thing last year, different schools. 8 schools showed double-digit gains, 8 schools showed double-digit losses. I'm bringing this to your attention simply, again, to show kind of the arbitrariness of these ratings and that there are no targets that schools can aim for. Every year it depends on how every other school across the state has performed, and so it's a constantly moving target with fluctuating rates. And this causes a little bit of frustration for those schools trying to move out of trying to move out of focus status. And it just kind of adds to every year waiting to see what school is going to be identified or who's going to move out. Okay? Specifics, 10 elementaries moved down, 11 went down, and I said Nowlin stayed the same. Middle schools, 3 moved up, 4 went down. High schools is probably where we showed the most growth. I'll get into that in just a second. 7 reward schools, we have had as many as 8. 6 focus schools, we have had as many as 8. And as I said, no new priority schools, again. So that's really good. Some specific things, schools that should be singled out, as I already mentioned, how moved from focus to reward. Laurie Elementary went up 24 points, and that moved them out of focus school. So not only did they show very significant gains, they also narrowed the achievement gaps. So that means that they really brought up their bottom kids as well, if they moved up generally across the board. I talked about the high school games. Etzel Ford up 29. Dearborn High went up 39 points on the top to bottom list. Fordson went up 14. So again, our high schools are showing significant gains across the board. To put this into perspective, across the state, there were 60 new priority schools identified this year. 34% of last year's priority schools, including Etzel Ford, moved out of priority status. So there's 138 priority schools across the state. 110 new focus schools identified. We only had 1 new focus school identified this year, and that would be Salina Elementary. And they were right on the cusp last year, and this year they joined that group. So there's currently 346 focus schools across the state. To put things into a little bit of perspective, as far as what other districts are doing, Ann Arbor currently has 18 focus schools. I believe they have 29 schools, so more than half the schools in Ann Arbor are focus schools. Utica is the second largest district in the state. They have 7 focus schools. And then there's an awful lot of schools that seem to have 5. Grosse Pointe has 5 focus schools. Wayne-Westland has 5. Livonia has 5. I think Plymouth Canton has 5 focus schools. But again, these numbers change and fluctuate all the time from year to year. Let's see, I pretty much covered the status here across the board. To give you a general idea, Dearborn High is in the 2nd year. When you look at the average scores of the bottom 30 compared to the top 30, I looked at the schools, we're just still looking at the preliminary information, to see the schools that had more than a 50-point achievement gap between the 2 groups. I mean, that would be pretty significant. Dearborn High has those kind of gaps in reading, writing, and math. So their top kids are moving up, but we need to work on their bottom kids and bring them up. I'm having a hard time understanding right now why Nowlin is still on the list. Nowlin has come up across the board, and they have really reduced their achievement gaps. They stayed at the same 30 percentile. William Ford should be mentioned because William Ford is the only school where their bottom 30 kids made learning targets across the state, very, very high proficiency levels. It was just their math scores. So William Ford is on for the one area. So as I said, we will continue to dig into this, and the next time I come with the next quarterly report, we'll have very specific information for you. Okay? As far as Etzel Ford status and what it means moving out of priority school status, so you remember when they were named a priority school last year, it's a 4-year cohort group. And what Etzel had to do was write a very intensive transformation plan. It was a 4-year transformation plan that had to be approved by the Michigan Department of Education. And this incorporated several of the changes and the initiatives that we put into place. Most notable, of course, would be the extended hour a lot of the professional development initiatives, a lot of the climate and culture initiatives. And that's a 4-year plan approved by Michigan Department of Ed, and they monitor its implementation. If we want to make some changes as we look forward to this year, we have to rewrite the plan, we have to resubmit it to Michigan Department of Ed and get their permission. So for the start of the school year, we kept going with the plan. We will, again, look at the data very carefully, we'll analyze it, we may be making some changes in how we're handling the transformation process at Etzel Ford, but that will be up to the Michigan Department of Ed to approve and to approve the timeline and the funding and so on and so forth. Okay? So for the next steps, we have been assigned a new DIF. A DIF is our District Interventionist Facilitator. These are individuals assigned by the state of Michigan to help us follow through with the focus and priority school designations. They're there to provide assistance and continuity. This will be our 3rd DIF for our priority school, and by my count, our 7th focus school DIF, and those people have not been named yet. We will be doing the focus school data digs. This is where we go into each focus school and we identify each student that falls into the bottom 30 in every subject area. We communicate this information to classroom teachers so they know exactly who these kids are, and then we can go in and devise specific targeted interventions to help move these kids along, these children along, based on their individual needs. We have asked that every focus school submit a plan to us by October the 1st, outlining exactly what these interventions are going to be, how they're going to be phased in, how we're going to scaffold instruction to these students, and then Michigan Department of Ed will require an official report from our focus schools on November the 29th and 26th, I'm sorry. And as these plans are developed, we will be sharing them with you. So that's all I have for you right now. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Trustee Guido?
I just appreciate the explanation, because when I looked at this on my own, I was clueless as to what it meant. When you see somebody that has a double-digit positive gain and they're still not out of focus, I didn't understand, I probably still don't, exactly how all this works, but I was pretty lost, and so I appreciate the explanation. The plus minus is just their change from
change on
year.
the top to bottom focus list, and it's based on Z-scores, which it's based on how much better or worse they did compared to other schools. It's not just their achievement. It is their achievement and their achievement over time, but it's based on how much better or worse they did. And this is part of the waiver. So it's not just like, it's not a percentile, it's how they did compared to all the other schools across the state. And that's why it's such a moving target, because we never know how they're going to do until we get the results of all the other schools.
So even though Hague had an increase of 12, it wasn't enough to get them.
Hague, a lot of these schools are very high-performing schools. The issue is the gap between the bottom kids and the top kids. And so that kind of puts Lori into perspective. The fact that Lori moved up 24 points and also shrunk their achievement gap means that their top kids made improvement, but they really brought their bottom up. And so in schools where you've got very high-performing kids and then you've got the lower 30 who are struggling, that's where we get into issues. As the state
that
identifies.
explanation, I think this would be pretty almost impossible to understand. I certainly didn't, because it
Even
looked
with
like
that,
some
it's
of them were
difficult.
doing great, and they really didn't get get out of the status that they were in. But,
Yeah, we have a lot
but
to
at least it
celebrate.
allows you to pinpoint where the deficiency is in each school and work towards that that end. So I appreciate the explanation. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll need it again next time, but.
Schoolmaster?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was
Trustee
pointing
Lane?
Ms. Lane because she...
Oh, yeah, I did write to the State Department of Education, and I objected to the name because I think the name is deceiving. It would seem like it's a ranking of schools on, overall scores, when in fact it's so many factors. I got a long explanation of Z scores back, so I still think that the naming is wrong. I don't have any problem with evaluating how schools are doing, and there's so many factors, it does make it very complicated. It makes it somewhat useless to parents, I think, because of all of these factors. The other thing that I would mention, and Trustee Guido kind of touched near this, and I know it's a factor with many of our schools. I'm curious to know, when we target children whose scores are, we want to intervene to bring up, I just wonder how often does it happen that some of those children move in and out of district, because residents and poverty kind of are mirrored in some of these scores, residential patterns of poverty. And we know in our district we've had at least a 10% turnover rate. That's what we've been told.
A turnover
per
rate, I
year.
believe, is actually much higher than that. One thing that
Well,
Michigan...
at least at
Yeah.
a minimum. And I know from thinking of kids that my kids went to school with, I'm probably right.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Michigan Department of Education would counter that these test scores only represent kids who have been here for a full academic year. We're not talking September till June necessarily, but the kids who have been here for 2 official counts. So if a child would enter in January and then take the MME test in March, their test scores would not count until the following year. So, but of course, we have this conversation all the time about it also counts English learners after they have been here for only 1 academic year, when all the research in the world indicates that it takes four years to get just the basic of the language and 7 years to expect any mastery. So that they're, and then of course, every school has the same guidelines that they operate under. I'll stop there.
well, even if, I'm glad that that's not officially in the count, but still, I would be interested to know, do we pay attention then to children that, and is it a significant number of children that we want to intervene with, and then those children are not in our district? Is there that much turnover?
All of that data is considered when we do, I refer to the data digs for the focus schools. We go through, we look at every child, and we find out if they're identified as being in a subgroup. We check to see if they're students with disability, any kind of special ed issues, and a lot of the schools have done the transiency rates to track the kids, to find out if they're bringing us up or bringing them down.
Yeah, I'm curious.
There are regulations, which means that if a child comes to us from another Michigan school, their test scores for that first year goes back to the school. And so they track that throughout the state of Michigan. Of course, we have so many kids who come to us from out of state or out of country even. And then, of course, if you combine that with the English language factor.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking that, not that it, I mean, it affects our scores, and that's just the way it goes, but it may be a cue to us to what kind of interventions we need with those children and their families, so.
Yeah, we go beyond
Good.
the academic interventions. We look at the climate and culture. We look at family involvement. We look at getting the kids into the community. We look at very personalized, individualized interventions as well. Some kids respond well to online, others one-on-one. Others, it may be an issue of not having supplies at home. So there's a number of different factors that the schools do consider.
Lots of work to do.
This is a lot of data here. I mean, 3-4 pages with the reports here, so, but I know what it takes to get here. So I thank you, and we appreciate, all the work that you do, and especially coming here in front of us trying to explain it. One question, back to the focus schools. When each individual building turns in their plan, before 4 or 5 weeks later we send it off to the state, who actually looks at that plan?
We review it here at the state level.
Being?
We, Dr. Chokel, Dr. Schenkman, I look at them. Dr. Kleen Assessment certainly looks at them.
Do we get any of the other administrators, maybe put in, get their input? Because we have some buildings here that have done some wonderful work going from focus
Absolutely.
to reward.
Yeah.
I mean, is this for their eyes too, maybe to take a look at it, share information? This is what we did here, this is what worked?
Yeah,
Because I know when you mentioned Dearborn High, I mean, that's very alarming.
Yeah.
That's a huge gap, and I know you
Yeah.
mentioned for a reason.
I can give an example. Bryant Middle School was a focus school for 1 year.
Sure.
And we have tapped Bryant several times. Lori Elementary, they pioneered the individual child tracking, and now that's pretty much used uniformly across the district. When we do our school improvement visits, we tend to invite other administrators to come along to share best practices.
what I wanted to hear.
And I was at Hague this morning addressing their staff, and probably 10 times throughout the presentation, it was like, this worked really well at this school. You might want to consider this at another school. We absolutely share and steal best practices across
That's
the
what I wanted
board
to hear.
and get as much input as we
Working
can.
together, sharing ideas.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Next item, please, next report.
Yes, next report is summer program.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Brian Whiston, Dr. Gail Shankman, Dr. Jill Choco, Dr. Hayam McEldray, and Mr. Osama Beydoun.
You skipped
think-
one, we'll go back to
Fourth
B.
quarter?
But, let's go with, let's go
No,
with C.
she did A and B together.
Oh, she did A, B together.
No,
Okay,
yeah, she
sorry.
put those together. So Hiam and I think Osama are here to give us a report.
Right.
Elementary first, okay, Dr. Choco.
Yep.
Yes, she did.
Good evening. The summer was a very busy time for elementary, with summer programs being offered at 17 schools, plus our district-wide programs. So beginning in June, right after the year ended, all the way through last Thursday, August 21st, we had 17 summer schools, plus the district summer school program. So the total attendance of students was 1,557. In addition to that, we opened our media centers, a minimum of a half a day a week at every elementary school where there were not plans for remodeling. Some of the media centers were being recarpeted, and a couple of schools were inaccessible because of that work. And so we had, at the time of the report, 2,300 visitors to media centers. We got in some late reports, which pushed that number to over 3,000. We had 8,700 books checked out over the summer, where normally the libraries would be closed and those books would not be circulating. So we feel that books in the hands of children and families was a big step. In addition to that, we piloted e-readers from a company called Mayan, and there were 17,194 Mayan titles checked out, and so it's a virtual checkout with those titles being read online, and so we can track the reading time of those individuals who check out, and that was about 1,400 hours of reading time. So lots of teachers working, lots of students attending, and a lot of activity that will help ease students into the school year. So it's a good summer.
Great. Sounds like it was a busy summer.
Thank you, Dr. Choco. Now Hiam and Osama are going to share with you secondary.
And I'm going to talk, good evening. I'm going to talk about the middle school summer program. This is our second year of the program. It had a in-class and online component. It required teachers to work with students during the 6 weeks that there was online work being done, and then they came back for a week. We also took a field trip, which they enjoyed very much, at Imagination Station. The students that were included in the program were students who had less than 2 years below grade level in reading and in math. The enrollment last year was about 755, so kids knew that something would happen if their scores didn't go up, and we enrolled 534 this year. So it went down, and we believe it's because kids were more aware of it. We opened up the media center, and this year we did it for 2 days versus last year, which was 3 days. Yet we've created a culture of summer learning. We had over 1,100 students participate in the middle school, which I thought was excellent, compared to 500 and a few last year. The program results is that most students passed and are being moved on to the next grade. We had very few retention, so we were real happy with the program. Now Osama's going to take over, and then, not unless you have questions regarding the middle school.
Yeah, one of the questions Member Lane had when her and I were discussing this was, it's exciting that we're trying something new, the online component, but how do we track and know that the students are doing the online component and fulfilling those responsibilities?
Yeah, during the 6 weeks at home, we have access to their work. We revised some of the curriculum because of problems from last year. So when they did their math, we could see and view what they were doing and help them out. They can email back. We can tell how much of the writing they did, the reading they had to answer. So during the summer, some of our teachers actually came into the media center to work with kids because it was a little bit difficult to work with them over the email system. And they came in to meet with the teachers. They emailed them. It worked out. So we do keep track of how they're doing.
That was my question
Yep,
to
absolutely.
Superintendent Whiston, especially children that aren't succeeding. I mean, it's hard enough for all of us to get our motivation up to go do something we don't want to do online.
Exactly.
And I was curious, and I'd really like to see the results on online versus in time. And I really was questioning whether we would succeed with a purely online program. I was really doubtful about that. So did they get feedback in real time when they were online doing their math?
Absolutely, absolutely. And if they had questions, and like I said, some of our teachers were great. They would come in and meet with them during the media center hours and go over problems and so forth. And the same thing with the reading book. If the reading book wasn't at their level, we made adjustments accordingly. And we called them at home. If we didn't hear from them, we were calling them. So I provided everybody with phone numbers.
So you're going to break out those stats for us by online, in-class success, and whether there's increases. I can't imagine that there decreases.
The in-class work tied right into the online. So the first week, we actually did the online work so that they were comfortable with it. We taught them how to sign in. We taught them how to email. We actually did the first few lessons so that the students felt comfortable, because we learned from last year we needed more practice with that. And then when they came back, what they didn't finish, we worked with them on that.
So presumably Assistant Principal Baydoun is going to show us results broken out. And
We might have to come back with more data on
okay.
that part. But yes,
No
results.
pressure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hian. Good evening, President Berry, Superintendent Whiston, trustees. Going on from middle school to high school, of course, all of our students were highly motivated. You said that, sometimes you don't like that.
Sometimes.
Who doesn't love summer school?
Yeah.
So we brought rigor and relevance to the program. I mean, everything that we do in the regular school year, one of the conversations we have up front with all of our staff is that the rigor and the relevance stays there, that we don't compromise on that. However, failure is not an option, and that we take the necessary interventions and we make sure that things are embedded in practice. And I'll talk about that as we go through this. So we had 296 students that enrolled in the program. 437 classes is what they took, and 406 classes earned credit. Some of the things we used were just traditional face-to-face instruction. That was in all core subject areas. We had phys ed, we had math, science, language arts, and social studies. E2020, we had the mentor, the teacher in the classroom, and students were flexible in terms of going into their classrooms and working on it. The best part of that is that if you were motivated because that teacher said, hey, I'm here an hour early and I'll stay as late as you want me to stay, not till midnight, but just, maybe an hour later. And some of those students were motivated to finish summer school in 3 weeks. So they were high-fiving me after 3 weeks saying, hey, I got it done. All right, so that was good for them. Michigan Virtual High School, they got the privilege of working away, not in a traditional class setting that was flexible because, some families go on vacation, they travel. I mean, I had one girl that was in Iraq and finished the virtual. And then we have one student that, we have students who have a job, get the work experience, half a credit for those seniors that are trying to graduate. So instruction, teachers used reader apprenticeship, some of the best practices that we see in every single classroom throughout their content area to develop literacy skills and engage students with challenging text. And some of the things that we did is that the Common Core, the key shift is that instead of like a personal opinion and so on, now you're talking about going in and writing from the source. You're grabbing evidence from the source, and when you argue your stand on any of those issues, you're actually going inside, getting evidence from the text, and making it very factual. An example of the reading and writing strategies we used, we're not limited to, but talking to the text, questioning to the text, annotating the articles, summarizing double entry journals, illustrating the text, in visiting every single classroom, almost every single day, this is what we saw in there. In terms of formative assessment, every single teacher had a clear learning target. Students walked in, they clearly understood exactly what was expected of them for that day. And I saw that, formative assessment was consistently used. They checked for understanding throughout the lesson. You're talking about a 3-hour block here, and, there were several things going on, and you saw teachers that were truly engaged in students that were responsive to that process. And some of the things they used were exit tickets and graphic organizers. Some of the things we used as the 21st century learner, in terms of project-based learning. We saw that in some of our business classes and confident consumer. We saw students working in groups and building a budget presented to the other students. So that was interesting to see. As in the case, all core subject students used thinking maps, interactive PowerPoint lessons, inquiry questions, writing prompts, and guided learning. 64 students completed the requirements for a high school diploma. 1 completed the requirement for a certificate of completion. Our success rate continues to improve. Our objective, as always, is to be 100%, and we're well above 90%. Any questions?
Questions? Trustee Lane?
Presumably, there's pre and post testing, so that I assume that's how we're verifying that students that are online or students that are in class are making progress. Do you pre-test there?
No,
or you
in
don't?
summer school, because it's a credit recovery, we're just looking at, we offer the selection of courses. The graduation interventionist looks at, okay, you failed this class, you need to graduate. Okay, this is the class we're going to give you in summer school, if you'd like to take it.
And is the material the same as?
The same material, the same rigor, and we're in those classes every day, looking at best practices.
Great, thank you very much.
And our final program in secondary is our accelerated summer academic program for our English learners, especially our newcomers. Having summer learning loss isn't acceptable for students who are English language learners. So we offer our summer program to those students this year from August the 4th through the 21st, Monday through Friday from 9 to 2, so a full day for those students. We had 115 students participate in grades 6 through 11. The focus of the secondary program this year was, as it has been in the past, on literacy or oral language development, particularly structured reading, structured writing, with an emphasis on academic language. We know that it takes years to build academic language, and that when students arrive in this country, that's an important thing for them to develop quickly. So teachers collaborated by content area to do lesson planning and incorporated the daily content and language objectives in their lessons, using read-aloud, structured word sorts, and scaffolding discussions, including using visuals. The teachers increased students' fluency and comprehension of high-frequency and academic content words. The explicit instruction in narrative and informational writing greatly enhanced the students' higher-order thinking skills and writing fluency. Science experiments helped them analyze and strengthen content concepts and supported their academic language proficiency. The areas that we concentrate on during the summer for our English learners are language arts and social studies and science. But in social studies and science, we use those content areas to support and build language. Our students who are in the high school earn a half a credit for their participation in the program. Success is something we're very proud of. Our students demonstrated confidence when speaking in small groups and in whole groups. They got to practice those high-frequency words every day, both orally and in writing. And the students read narrative and informational books daily and wrote journals daily. The source of funding for our program is Title I and Title III. Thank you.
Trustee Lane?
So I will anticipate, I assume we're going to get scores on all of this, and they'll be broken out by level and then subject. So, and then by school, homeschool also.
Certainly, we have credit in credit recovery and what the grades the students have achieved. And I want to compliment, I haven't had a chance to do that yet, but to compliment certainly the secondary principals, Mrs. El-Kadre and Mr. Beydoun, and the excellent job that they did in making sure that monitoring of instruction and supporting the teachers and all that they did with students. But you'll have that information on summer school success. We have the high school summer school success because it's whether we achieved credit recovery. Mm-hmm. With our middle school students, it's how do they they do this year. So you'll get something mid-year from us that shows that they're hopefully more successful this year because of the work that they did over the summer. And with English learners, the same kind of thing. They'll be more successful when they take the WIDA and in their courses this year.
Good. Well, I really sincerely appreciate the work that people did, because it really is, I mean, saving kids from not graduating, and that's so important. I really think it's a wonderful opportunity for students to have libraries open in their neighborhood, and without having reading materials, they can't read. So I'm just really, really appreciative that we have this for our students. It's a real opportunity for them, and I'm really glad it was done. So thank you to everybody who was involved.
Thank you. Helped change the culture of summer in Dearborn.
Oh, yeah. It's great.
Thank you.
And the final report is administrative activities, opening days of school. We'll hear from Brian Whiston.
As we mentioned, next Tuesday we begin school. We certainly have our team that's out there doing bond work and summer work, and I see Don Ball. He assures me that by Saturday all the work's going to be done. Right, Don? That's what he has shared with me. And I've scared him now that he's sitting there. But certainly that's our goal, is to have it all done by Saturday. I know we were thrown a loop because of the weather, so there might be a couple issues that we're a little behind on, but certainly our goal is to get it done by opening of school. And Dr. Chokol, you have anything you want to share about opening day? Or, okay, just we're ready. It's coming back. Our teachers, you go into the buildings, our teachers are there working, ready, getting ready for students. And again, we invite the board to join us on opening day. That's it for that report.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Action item, special consideration of an action item. Are there any agenda items on this agenda which board members or the superintendent wish to discuss and vote on separately? If there are, we will exclude these from the motion below. The motion below is, pardon me?
I don't think we have anything we need to separate.
Motion below is a motion to approve action items. At this time, I'm going to call for a single motion to approve all the action items on this agenda, with the exception of any items which have been excluded from this motion by board member request.
So moved. We have a motion, support. Are there any questions?
Okay, the motion is move that action items numbered 1 through 18.
Okay.
Right?
I heard you say all the motion,
okay.
all the items. So, so we do have a motion and support. Are there any questions?
Yeah, we're moving on at least one revised some lists, correct? We have
yes, we do have a supplement,
revised
supplement at the table. So that's what's on the agenda as of right now. Yes.
Okay. All right.
A revision to the personnel.
Yeah. Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
The one item on the copiers, we go through 24 million copies.
34. That was eye-popping.
Yeah. Yes, we go through a lot of copies.
Do we try to print 2 sides whenever possible?
We're learning to do that.
I had no clue. We went through
that.
We had a contest, and we all guessed how many copies. Nobody was close.
Yeah, that would be a nice goal to try to reduce the number of copies. When I read 34 million copies and we're one school district, I mean, I was really shocked.
Yep.
I couldn't believe
Wish
that
I could
either.
tell
That
you
was
you were
amazing.
wrong.
Anyway, sorry. I just had a...
No, I thought the same thing.
There are no objections. The motion will carry. Next item.
Mr.
Summary
President,
of agenda action
oh, yes,
items.
I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm sorry.
I did want to invite Rima Hassan up to congratulate her as the new assistant principal at McCullough Eunice. If you'd like to come up and say hi to the board.
Well, I want to thank you guys for giving me this opportunity. I'm especially excited considering that I student taught at Fortson, was hired at Etzel, taught at Dearborn High for 7 years, and now at McCullough Eunice. So I feel like this experience is going to keep me well-rounded. So I want to thank you again for this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to the new challenges ahead of me.
Great, thank you, and good luck to you.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Maymoon Mustafa up, who will be an assistant principal at Fortson High School. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good evening, President Berry, Superintendent Whiston, and trustees. On behalf of my family and myself, I would like to thank you for approving me for the position of Assistant Principal at Fortson High School. Being a product of Dearborn schools from Salina Elementary, Salina Junior High School, graduating from Fortson, doing my student teaching at Woodworth, teaching 4 years at Fortson, and now becoming an administrator is truly a dream come true. Just as I want the best for my children who are in the district, I also want the best for all the kids in the community. I'm excited and looking forward to continue helping Dearborn Public Schools do great things and help the student, teachers, and administration take Fortson to another level. I told my kids that I wouldn't be nervous.
You know, I was going to say, this is the first, I've known you for a long time. This is the first time I saw you nervous.
It's different speaking to adults.
Usually have 30-some students in front of you.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, thank you for what you do and good luck to you.
Yes,
guys.
thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to invite Mike Easley up, who will be the new assistant principal at Laurie School, and congratulations to you, Mike.
Those were great words, Maimoon. Tough act to follow. I'd like to thank Superintendent Whiston and the board for this opportunity. As a proud graduate of the Fortson class of 2000, this is almost a lifelong dream to be a leader in the community I grew up in. I promise you that I will give my 100% effort each and every day. And this is truly a dream come true, and I'm super excited to begin this next chapter of my life.
Thank you and good luck to you.
And I'd like to invite Shannon Peterson up, who has been appointed Executive Director of Secondary Education. Congratulations, Shannon.
Good evening. Well, I'm a little emotional about leaving my Eagles, but we're going to work on creating a secondary team, much like you had spoken of, learning from each other. There's great things going on in every secondary building, elementary too, but my job will be secondary, and we're going to try to work together to create one team.
Thank you. Good luck to you.
Congratulations. Thank you for that interruption, and congratulations to all. Thank you.
President, do you want me to read the summary of agenda action items?
Please.
Number 1 was approval of warrants, which are items for payment by the district and have been reviewed by the administration. Number 2 was approval of playground equipment, supplies, and installation at Salina Intermediate School. 3 was approval of a 5-year contract for print management services. 4 was approval of network security and access control. 5 is approval of new food serving line at Nowland Elementary School. 6 is approval of supplies, furnishings, and equipment for the GSRP at Becker, Miller, and Salina Intermediate Schools. 7 through 10 was approval of non-instructional and instructional personnel. 11 was approval of 2014 summer school graduates. 12 was approval of innovative approaches for learning grant for elementary GSRP sites. 13 was approval of board meeting schedule. 14 was approval of reinstatement of Eunice middle school student. 15 was approval of appointment of McCullough Eunice assistant principal. 16 was approval of appointment of Fortson assistant principal. 17 was approval of appointment of Lowry assistant principal. 18 was approval of appointment of executive director secondary education. And 19 was approval of all contract changes for bond issue projects. A lot of work.
Thank you. Now next item.
Discussion items.
None.
Acknowledgement of correspondence.
I think everything we received was addressed tonight. Next item.
Board of Education business, board member committee and organization reports. I don't think we had any.
Anything to report. Okay, next item.
Board member commentary.
Next item.
Requests for information and or future agenda items.
We did get the data request, so we'll get that.
Next item.
Superintendent reports.
Nothing, just looking forward to an exciting school year and some new things going on as we talked about, and some continuation of some great things. So we welcome back all of our teachers and staff. You can't really welcome them back as most of them have been here all summer working. So we thank everybody and we look forward to a good year. Thank you.
And the final item is future meeting dates.
Mr. Guido?
I just have a quick question, maybe under other. Are we all squared away on any of the storm damage? Is all that?
I think we still, the gym at Snow is an ongoing issue from the storm. I just told Don Ball to come up. As far as I know we have an issue at Snow of the gym floor that's still an issue from the storm damage, but please.
Good evening. Excuse me. The floor at the gym at Snow buckled because of moisture. We're in the process of lining up an abatement company come in and abate the floor because it has an asbestos pad underneath it. We're looking at trying to get that done this week. We've already ordered the replacement floor, so it's a matter of just getting a new floor installed. We're trying to get that done next week or the week after.
I certainly want to thank Don Ball and his team for an outstanding work for everyone who dealt with the weather. Knows how traumatic it was.
The list is long, and Tony Sarkins had a lot to do.
Tony
with it
Sarkins
also.
too, yeah.
You know, since I have this opportunity, I was asked a question over the weekend, saving me sending an email tomorrow. The new complex at Etzel Ford, is the county scheduled to be there? Are we going to be okay for opening day?
I was told it was approved on Thursday.
I'm under the impression that they did the walkthrough.
County's
last
been
Thursday.
in,
Yes.
county health,
As far as
everything's-
I know, yes.
Okay.
I asked that
great.
question today, and I was told
That's
it was
wonderful.
approved on Thursday, and it's been approved.
Beautiful building.
I think we had to
For
change
long
out a
time.
microwave is the only thing we had to change.
That's minor. Thank you.
I just have one more follow-up.
Yes, sir.
Are we at some point going to know what the total damage?
Yep, as soon as we get the final report, he estimated it between 250 and 500,000.
Are we
But we'll get to this.
self-insured on that, or do we have any?
No, we have insurance.
We do?
Yes.
We probably have a large deductible, though.
But I think they thought it was going to be covered.
No, I don't, not like
Some
that.
of the minor damage won't be covered, of course, yes.
Right.
But the major stuff, we will give you a final accounting on, this is what it cost, and this came from insurance, this came from district funds.
Maybe as much as 5,000 per school, though.
Is that right?
A deductible, yeah. But Brian will tell us.
Thank you.
Future meeting dates. Monday, September 8th, 2014, P12 Board of Education meeting, 7 p.m. at the Administrative Service Center in the Franchi Boardroom. Monday, September...
Strike.
No, he's okay. Next one is okay.
Oh, next month.
We covered it.
Yeah. Oh, that's Center for you.
You're jumping on it.
I am.
Monday, September 15th, 2014, HFC meeting, 7 p.m. at the Andrew Mazzara Service and Conference Center in the Rosanoa Boardroom, Henry Ford College. The next meeting is not September 22nd, but October 13th, 2014. P12 Board of Education meeting, 7 p.m. at the Administrative Service Center in the Franchi Boardroom. And finally, Monday, October 20th, 2014, HFC meeting, 7 p.m. at the Andrew Mazzara Service and Conference Center in the Rosanoa Boardroom, Henry Ford College.
Thank you. We are adjourned.
Thank you. Good job.